All right, folks, we'll get back to court in just a moment. But first, I want to bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us to discuss, trial attorney, former prosecutor Randolph Rice. Randolph, great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. I want to talk to you about this particular witness and the cross-examination. Now, she's the mom. She did some interesting things. And I said earlier, initially, I thought it was interesting, the choices that she made looking for her daughter. I actually admired her a little bit, but I thought there came a point where she crossed the line. And I think crossing that line may have compromised on some level the state's case. And I think the defense, in cross-examining her, has to get to that point. What do you make of the cross-examination and what's required here by the defense?
Well, I'm kind of wondering if the defense might have gone over the line in their opening statements and admitting that Mr. Chen was the one who did this. And because now they've got this witness, the mother of the victim, who's on the stand, pretty much saying she muddied up the crime scene. So that really calls into question the defense's opening statements. Now, granted, that's not evidence. That's not something the jury should theoretically consider, but that's in their mind already. And now you've got somebody saying, we went into this house, we might have staged it, we might have touched things. It really brings a lot of questions into mind, I think, of the jury right now as to what she's testifying. I understand why the state has to do it. They have to obviously establish a timeline, but it certainly brings questions in the juror's mind.
Yeah, and in some ways, the fact that they staged the crime scene is not as important because of the stance the defense took. Quite frankly, they're saying that there was this confrontation, and on some level, he was defending himself, although they didn't go that far, didn't file for self-defense, but they're claiming he was provoked and he acted in passion, and this is not a murder case. This is a manslaughter case. So how important is the fact that the family went in and might have messed with the crime scene, et cetera?
I think early on in a trial, typically trials like this, and I've found this before, is that jurors oftentimes, they will forget, not necessarily forget, but they start to sort of have the memories of the first couple witnesses will dwindle or fade. And the more important witnesses, that's why you put them on at the end of the trial, may be the more important facts for them to take into consideration. So I think that they can recover from this. It's certainly not good for the state, but it's something I think they can recover from based on, obviously, the admissions of the defendant and all the other evidence. The 60 stab wounds right there, I think that gets you away from that involuntary manslaughter and goes into the more of the murder count.
Yeah, so that takes me to that point about how do you prove premeditation in this case. There's a set of facts being put out there by the state, a set of facts being put out by the defense. So without actually anyone being there, seeing what happened, how does the state then go about proving premeditation?
Michael, I'm going to quote you, and what you always say is, it's not the crime, it's what you do after the crime. And you're always talking about that. And I think that is exactly the case here. If you have something where it happens so quickly and it's a crime of passion, then why aren't you calling the police? Why aren't you notifying people? That's not what Mr. Chen is probably going to be proven that he didn't do. And obviously, when you bound her and put her in a suitcase and leave her on the side of a river, that doesn't seem an indication of somebody that was trying to have this voluntary manslaughter. This is somebody who had this plan, they came up with it, and ultimately he killed her, and that's what the state's going to try to prove here.
Yeah, of course, the defense is claiming there was family honor on the line, didn't want to disappoint his family, all of that. Don't know how that's going to go over with this jury, but Randolph, stand by. We're going to go back inside that courtroom now. Jasmine Pace's mother still on the stand. She's still on cross-examination.